Good evening. You are tuning into AWANI Tonight with me, Saraya Mia. Agong grants audience with committee seeking to end emergency. And on Earth Day, where are we in achieving our climate target? That's coming up. The Yang di-Pertuan Agong has granted an audience with the committee for ending the emergency declaration. Although the date for the meeting has yet to be confirmed, committee chairperson Khalid Samad said he is confident it will be set as soon as possible.
The Shah Alam MP confirmed that he received the letter of invitation from the palace on Thursday morning, informing the committee of the monarch's consent. On April 20th, former Prime Minister and Langkawi MP Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad joined members from the committee to seek an audience with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. The Independent Special Committee on Emergency 2021 was set up by opposition leaders including Parti Amanah Negara President Muhammad Sabu, Parti Perjuang Tanah Air President Datuk Seri Mukriz Mahathir, DAP's Deputy Secretary General Teresa Kok and PKR's Vice President Tian Chua.
The High Court today dismissed PKR President Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim's application for leave to proceed with his lawsuit against the Prime Minister and the Malaysian government. The lawsuit was for the alleged unlawful advice to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong to suspend Parliament during the emergency. On January 25th, Anwar filed his lawsuit at the High Court in his capacity as the opposition leader in the Dewan Rakyat. Anwar had sought for 10 declarations and court orders aimed at cancelling the suspension of Parliament during the emergency, so to enable Parliament to continue to sit during the period. Interpol has approved a red notice to locate and detain fugitive businessman Nicky Liao. Johor Police Chief Commissioner Dato' Ayub Khan Maidin Piche said a red notice was also obtained for Liao's Chinese national wife.
An Interpol red notice is a request to law enforcement worldwide to locate and detain persons of interest. He also confirmed that the State Commercial Crimes Investigation Unit had arrested a police officer in relation to the case. Liao is high on the police wanted list for alleged money laundering activities and involvement in an organised crime syndicate.
Malaysia has made an ambitious commitment to reduce the intensity of its carbon emissions by 45% by 2030. Secretary General of the Ministry of Environment and Water, KASA, Datuk Seri IR Dr. Zaini Ujang said this requires a huge commitment, not only by the government, but from all sectors and consumers. How committed is Malaysia towards reducing carbon emissions, and what are the obstacles to achieving the target?
We have been used to subsidy of utilities in the country. Electricity, say for example, is subsidized heavily. Water supply, and these are fuel to a certain extent. And in order to say for example to reduce carbon emission mainly from energy sector, which is about 79%. Of the categories includes transportation. Transportation is about 21%. The rest are power generation. We have to depart from the existing fossil fuel dependence. And this is not easy, this is not cheap.
Malaysia, he said, wants to ramp up efforts to lessen its dependence on fossil fuel energy by increasing investment in green energy.
We can have hydro, say for example, the existing structure. We don't, assuming we can share the capability or the capacity that we have in various parts in the country. So and then we can use solar. Solar cannot be more than 20%, except in the future we might have energy storage facilities, and that's not yet ready now in the big scale, so we cannot do that. And what else we have? We can have bioenergy from mainly waste material. So this is big thing that my ministries and my colleagues in the ministry would like to venture into in the future. So if we can get another 30% into the energy mix through waste sector, So that will reduce our dependency. But the question is, we have to redevelop the whole thing. We have to renegotiate the whole financial model and whatnot. So the implication might be more expensive in terms of energy tariff, electricity tariff, and water tariff. And there is no, say for example, less subsidy for fossil fuel-based materials. So this is the impact that we have to think whether our people are ready to accept that or not.
The largest contributor is from the energy sector, making up over 79%, followed by the industrial and waste sector, both at 8.6%, and the agricultural sector at 3.4%. We'll take a short break. Stay with us.
Untuk memastikan Malaysia ada ke depan kita boleh maju. Induknya adalah Melayu.
Balik kepada Islam. This is orang yang membuat polisi.
Kalau itu yang dikehendaki, fine. Mungkin kita berbeza pandangan.
Tapi kita mempunyai kuasa yang boleh menentukan budaya di masa hadapan.
Polisi yang mesra wanita, sudah tentu dia akan datang daripada pemimpin wanita. Untuk memastikan Malaysia ada ke depan kita boleh maju.
Induknya adalah Melayu.
Welcome back. As Malaysia proposed vaccine certificates for cross-border travel, the issue of diversity of vaccines used between countries come to mind. How can we allow vaccinated individuals from countries using a different set of vaccines into Malaysia or vice versa? Health policy specialist Dr. Koh Swee Keng weighs in.
900 million people, have received the vaccines, and the majority of them have received the vaccines from Pfizer, Moderna, or AstraZeneca. But this is not uniform across the world, because if you're in a low or middle income country, you're more likely to be using a portfolio of vaccines, including vaccines from China, and there are 5 approved vaccines from China. There is 1 approved vaccine from Russia, and in total, there are 14 vaccines that are in use around the world. So given high-income countries more likely to use one set, middle-income countries more likely to use a second set of vaccines, and low-income countries vaccinating slowly and more likely to use a third set of vaccines, we're seeing a vaccine disuniformity around the world.
What are the implications of this challenge?
Countries will now face 2 challenges when it comes to vaccine disuniformity, or a lack of, say, consistency in vaccine usage around the world. The first problem is, if I'm a country, in my country, I'm only approving vaccines A, B, and C, but citizens from another country are coming into Malaysia, but they have vaccines D, E, and F. From a regulatory standpoint, public health standpoint, epidemiological standpoint, scientific standpoint, and finally a foreign policy standpoint, is it okay for us to accept citizens from another country who have not been vaccinated with vaccines that have been approved and used in Malaysia? The safety profile and the effectiveness profile of vaccines A, B, and C are very familiar to Malaysian doctors, but we may not be familiar with vaccines D, E, and F. And if we're allowing people to come in who have been vaccinated with vaccines D, E, and F, that requires Malaysian doctors to be skilled or upgraded so that we understand vaccines D, E, and F as well. That is also leaving aside the question of, shall we say, double standards. Double standards in the sense of, if we're thinking that vaccines D, E, and F are good enough for other countries, why are we not approving them in our own country?
On the international front, concerns were mounting over the fate of an Indonesian submarine that went missing with 53 crew members on board, as a military official warned the vessel would run out of oxygen in 3 days. Indonesia has deployed 6 warships for the search. Malaysia and Singapore have also dispatched rescue ships, while nations including the US, Australia, France, and Germany have offered help. The vessel had been conducting a drill north of the island of Bali yesterday, but failed to report back. Contact with the German-made submarine vessel was lost at 4:30 a.m. after it asked for permission to dive at 3 a.m. Indonesian Navy said an oil spill found near where the missing submarine dived could point to fuel tank damage or could also be a signal from the crew. Tokyo Olympics organizers confirmed the first COVID-19 infection from the nationwide torch relay on Thursday. The unnamed man in his 30s who took part in the relay in the western island of Shikoku tested positive for COVID-19.
This was the first reported case related to the relay, which has been forced off public roads in some areas over fears it will spread the virus. The torch was carried around a closed course at a park in nearby Osaka last week, with the general public kept away. The 2021 Olympics is scheduled to take place from July 23rd to August 8, while international spectators are not allowed at the Games even if they were vaccinated.
India marked a grim milestone in the COVID-19 pandemic after reporting more than 314,000 new daily cases, the highest daily global total. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is being accused of bungling India's response to the crisis amid a devastating second wave.
India reported over 314,000 new cases of infection over the last 24 hours, surpassing the world's previous highest single-day increase held by the United States in January. Hospitals across northern and western India, including the capital, New Delhi, have issued notices to say they have only a few hours of medical oxygen required to keep COVID-19 patients alive. More than two-thirds of hospitals had no vacant beds, and doctors have advised patients to stay at home. Cases in India began rising in February, and in the subsequent months, large crowds, mostly without masks, gathered for religious festivals and political rallies.
Syria's government received its first delivery of COVID-19 vaccines through the global COVAX initiative. In a joint statement by UNICEF, WHO and Gavi Vaccine Alliance, the delivery of some 200,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine was critical and timely.
Syria's health system is already exhausted as a result of a decade-long war. A total of 54,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine arrived in Idlib, the first for opposition-held Syrian territory. More deliveries were planned in coming weeks and months. The WHO will oversee the coronavirus vaccination campaign with the aim to inoculate 20% of the population by the end of the year.
Philippines President Rodrigo Duterte will not attend the ASEAN summit in Jakarta this weekend. He is the second leader after Thailand Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha to skip the summit that is expected to address the ongoing crisis in Myanmar.
Former Foreign Affairs Minister Tan Sri Said Hamid Albar warned that Myanmar is at risk of becoming the first failed state in ASEAN since the bloc's founding in 1967. Myanmar's current state of instability, he said, if not addressed swiftly, could see its effects ripple into neighboring and regional countries. It is therefore in the immediate and long-term interest of ASEAN to prevent state failure in Myanmar. He added that ASEAN will need strong and decisive regional leadership and diplomacy to guide Myanmar back to a path of stability and democracy. Security forces in Myanmar have killed at least 739 people since a February 1st military coup ousted civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi.
Earth Day this year is a stark reminder of the Herculean task before the international community. Tonight on Consider This, we speak to our panelists about making our voice heard in the global conversation. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news updates on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and Astro AWANI app. I'm Soraya Mia. We'll see you again.